Hello, welcome back to the JRB podcast with myself, Ryan Levine, joined here by Jeff Jones and Bohdan Temnick.
What's
Hey,
up?
So just some opening announcements before we get into it. Couple things, I guess. We're trying to get this to be more consistent. This is a shorter turnover time than our previous whatever it was, like 2 to 3 month hiatus. So the other thing I wanted, I guess, just to poll the room. We've been sort of talking about doing other content, like not just uploading the podcast episodes, but maybe some more like shorter videos about different topics, or like even just like playing games of Master Duel or whatever. So if there's any sort of card game related content that you feel like would be interesting to have us do, put it in the comments and I'll read through all of them, and we'll pick some out. It can be informational and educational, or like guides of stuff, or it can just be gameplay if that's actually something somebody would find interesting. I hope I'm entertaining enough to carry that. But I've still been doing more videos on universes. I still love that game, and as long as the company is sending me stuff to open up and sending me cards to reveal, I'm gonna keep posting videos about them. So if you have any interest in that at all, I just posted a box opening of the newest Attack on Titan set. So if you like Attack on Titan and you're listening to this, so presumably you like card games. I do like that game a lot and I recommend it. So check that out. And then I did some reveal videos for a new product coming out that you can check out as well if you're just interested in seeing more stuff that game has to offer. And last thing, I have been working on getting the backlog of episodes up on Spotify. I did not realize I don't have the original files of these on my computer anymore, so it has just taken a much longer time than I thought it would to download them all from YouTube and then rip the audio on Audacity and a bunch of stuff. And it's not the end of the world. It was just taking longer than I thought, so I just haven't had time to finish it. But that will hopefully be done soon. Asterisk. As soon as I'm able to.
Asterisks,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. As soon as I'm able. It's just basically like triple the amount of work that I thought it was going to be. So I just haven't finished it. But yeah, hopefully when that's done, it'll be super easy to keep getting the new episodes up on there. Yeah, so that's as far as I got as far as like housekeeping and opening announcements. Um, we can talk about Bonanza for like 5 minutes. Like I don't think there's any new ground to be had on that. It came out. It has some reprints. It's kind of cool. Um, I like a lot of the like. I think the cards that I like in that set are probably different from a lot of the cards that other people like. But do either of you have like really standout cards that you were not expecting to be in there that you were kind of surprised to see, but happy about maybe?
Not expecting. I mean, I think there are some things that I was not expecting, but I was not happy about them. Um, but something I was expecting and was am happy that is in there is Allure of Darkness. I made sure to pick up three of
We
those. They were like
have
18. They were like
talked about that.
$18, and now they're
they
like
they look
30
they
bucks.
look
So
really good for a card that I think is really easy to mess up. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, one thing I really want to see them do, and this is just for me, I want to see how they would tackle beginning of the end in
Oh yeah.
Collector, and just
oh, yeah, that
see,
card. Yes.
you know what I mean? Like, just see what would happen.
Yeah.
Allure is allure, right? But I think the collector looks really, really good. I like that more than the QCR for sure. Maybe it's the Europrint thing, but I've seen some pictures floating around. Looks really, really
I
nice.
think
I like it.
we've probably maybe every single collector rare set that's come out, when we've kind of had our little discussion of like what would be cool to be collector rare, we've said allure so many times. Like, this card is so old. This card's from 2007. The ultimate rares of this card are crumbling to dust. It has been so long, and I think this has been so overdue for like a new premium printing, and yeah, that's one that I'm happy to see. I was happy to see Dandelion, Quick Draw, and Drill Warrior. I think that's fun. I like those. So
Yeah.
I don't
I
play
mean, I know
Edison
that
like
we
super
can complain
seriously.
about them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't play Edison super
There's just
seriously,
some
but
fun
I do
cards.
like that deck. Like, it's like that's the only Edison deck I have like sleeved and built, and I think it's just like pretty fun. But yeah, that's about it. I think. Oh, and the Necros cards. I think those are cool, especially leading into the new Necros support in Terminal World 2. So that's like neat. They did as many of those as they did, but definitely bending the rules on nostalgia when they printed cards from 2017 and 2015, and wasn't like Linkage came out in like 2020. or something, and that made it into the
2022.
Oh,
But yeah,
even better. Yeah,
even better.
bending the
Yeah.
rules a bit, but I think it's fine.
I
Yeah.
look.
Overall,
We can never complain when cards are reprinted,
yeah,
right?
of course.
Because
Yeah, yeah,
obviously,
yeah, yeah,
depending on the method, but
yeah.
like linkage was creeping for sure. It was hitting that, well, it wasn't hitting that price, but like again, it had that Euro print disparity, right? Where
Yeah.
it was
It was
shorter in
yeah,
Europe,
yeah, it was shorter
not
in
in
Europe, yeah.
USA. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. It's
Yeah,
fine.
so all in all, I think overall, I would say Bonanza probably still lower value than Rarity Collection 1. I just don't think any set they're going to do will match that. But better than the Rarity Collection 2? Thoughts? Yes? No?
Mm.
I feel like probably, right?
Definitely better than Rarity Collection 2.
Sure.
I think I would have more fun. Like, okay, so not opened too much of those three sets specifically.
Uh-huh.
I think Bonanza would be more fun to open solely for the nostalgia hit. So I think they did that
The
correct.
wider variety of cards as
Rarity,
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like I would feel happier to see certain cards in these packs that I'm opening, knowing full well that it's like I'm not gonna make up my value, but at least I'm like I told you guys before, I'm looking through like binders at locals the other day, and I'm just like, damn, like all of these cards are now just quarter century rare, and they're just like all really cool old cards that used to only have the bottom tier rarity of like common whatever, or some really atrocious like 2012 printing like SR, where it's like all warped from
Yeah.
like legendary collection, Yugi's World, whatever. Yeah, like I'm glad we're past that point.
Sure.
Like they're putting cards in good condition out for Time Wizard, out for Modern. Like it's great. I like
Yeah,
it,
that's
so.
something that I don't think a lot of people touch on is like reprints are not just important for accessibility for playing older formats. I think they're important for like making sure your cards are not marked because and that's where I think the only mark they missed is Trap Dust Shoot was a huge like Trap Dust Shoot should have been in this set. I think that's the
So
only real thing
I think there's a lot actually, but this is something I was going to touch on.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a lot to be missed, and some of them are like kind of weird ones. So I think it's weird to like do like BLS Chaos Emperor Dragon and not do Chaos Sorcerer.
Sure.
I agree with
The
that.
the previous quarter century sets had the forbidden
And Miss
spells, and
Chalice.
this
Yep.
one still did not
Yeah,
have
still didn't have Chalice. Yeah.
which I think is weird. But
Yeah.
I think I am 100% guilty of this, of like publicly complaining about, wow, I can't believe all the cards that they missed in this that they should have been in this. But I started to realize that maybe they are possibly learning from their mistake with Bonanza 1, where all the good cards were just in it, and then and then like Quarter Century 2 was just dog water, right? So now they're like, okay, we have to hold back a little bit so we can put the other things in Bonanza 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, I mean, like, they did a lot, but obviously, like, 200 cards is a lot, but it's not everything. And yeah, I could definitely see a Bonanza 2 or maybe even like a slightly smaller one. Maybe instead of 200 cards, they do 100. And then we get the hits like Trap Dust Shoot, Royal Oppression, Metamorphosis, Bottomless, D-Prison, right? Like, I think those are the biggest misses, I'll say in air quotes, are the ones that people are kind of like scratching their head like, how was Sakuretsu armor in here and not Deep Prison? How was Trap Hole in here and not Bottomless? And how was like Imperial Order in here and not Royal Oppression? I think those are the only
Imperial Order one
like,
was a crazy one.
Yeah,
that is kind of mad that wasn't because it's not even played in these other formats. So,
yeah, that one is. I don't think Imperial Order is legal in any format that anybody wants to play willingly. Maybe some people cope with the 2019 formats where it may have still been legal in some of. I think that was still legal. Yeah, it was. It wasn't banned till like Sword Soul, but yeah, like I think like if you're playing like a retro format, that card's probably not legal. And if you're playing a modern format, I hope you're agreeing to not play that card like with your opponent, I guess. But obviously if they have Time Wizard tournaments for 2019, you're probably putting Imperial Order in your deck. But yeah, that is probably the biggest outlier. But all in all, yeah, I think they hit a good balance. I think we were all kind of skeptical when we saw 200 cards, right? Especially when we were getting like drip fed the reveals like 5 at a time, and it's literally like day 1, it's like the 5 worst cards you've ever seen. We're like, oh, it's so
Yeah.
over. Day 2, the 5 most goated crazy cards you've ever seen in your life. You're like, oh, we're so back. And it was
Yeah,
it was a
the
roller coaster for sure.
I think the marketing for it was like pretty poor. I think it should have been like 4 old cards in one of the or like 4 retro cards and 1 modern card in
Sure,
each
sure, yeah.
reveal. Like, and that way people were like, oh, okay. But at least they know something else is good in there. Like, obviously, they didn't even like show Little Knight or anything like that. That was
Yeah,
kind of everyone had to wait until like
content creator.
reveals, right?
Yeah.
To see stuff like that. And so I imagine, I know a lot of people around me they're pretty happy with this. I know through my locals, they basically rated all of our stuff for all of the QCRs they wanted. Everyone's like, all right, I'll just wait here and pick apart your QCR binder and your QCR stacks. And
Correct me if I'm wrong. This one is the same price point as the other 2 rarity collections.
that is okay.
I
So
think it is $1 more. I think.
it is,
Okay.
which makes it more expensive, which is the only thing I heard people complain about was like,
So,
wow,
so
this
it's
is
yeah,
actually
it's funny. I think it might just be cheaper for us. Like that's something I haven't really comprehended. People were saying, oh, like Rarity Collection 1, Rarity 2, it's like we really didn't have the option to get these as prizing at our locals. And then they said for Bonanza, like, no, like they've just been given out like readily. So I'm not sure if something changed or maybe it was like a special thing, like the Bonanza celebration. Maybe that's what dictated it. But yeah, that's
because
okay. I didn't know it was $1 more.
Rarity
it's $6 a
collection,
pack.
yeah.
So it's like MSRP at a normal is like $143. Without like a store discount normally. Most of the stores around me sold them between 100 and 120.
Okay. And how are they
TCG
looking
Player
on
right now
TCG
has them for 96. Which is like still feels like really really high.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean the newest Pokemon box right now is like $130.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole
$160
different
a
beast.
box right now.
Is that the one with the Pikachu that everyone's going crazy
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, good. Yeah, I didn't
So
know if that was a new
for-
set or like an old one. I'm like, I've never
Nah.
seen this card before.
For context,
It's so expensive.
the regular MSRP of booster packs for like a core set is in the US currently at least is $449, and then
$449.
$449. So it's about $4.50. Rarity Collection 1 was $4.99, so slightly more expensive than
50 cents
regular
more.
pack. Yeah, and then Rarity 2 was $9.99, but it was like a double pack, right? So if you break it down into the fact that the contents of Rarity 2 are basically 2 packs of Rarity 1, it's the same asterisk. It's basically 2 packs of one.
Yeah.
And then
I get that.
Bonanza is $5.99. So Bonanza, because you're getting the luxury secret rare in every single pack, I'm sure that costs a little bit extra. And
Right.
it is $5.99 per pack. So Bonanza is like it is a premium like collector product, which I don't think Yu-Gi-Oh has really had many of. And like that's a cool, I guess that's like a cool avenue to explore. Like
And this could be like just
yeah.
a testing ground for
It
them
could be,
to
yeah,
see like
for
what
sure.
they can get away with. Like, can they make these more premium products when people buy them?
And I think this is a better way than Rarity 2. Rarity 2 being $10 a pack, I understand. Like it was something they tried, and I'm glad everyone hated it. Yeah. Everyone hated it, and I'm glad that they have now moved away from it, and they've been like, all right, that didn't work. You know,
so I checked in Oz, right? Like I'm just looking at a bunch of stores that I know would listed MSRP, like your chain stores, retail, like your locals, whatever, price break in person. And I'm looking at the pricing. Rarity 1 obviously no longer exists. It's in the ether. It's sold out.
Yeah.
But they still have Rarity 2, and the Rarity 2 MSRP is more than Bonanza MSRP. But then I have some stores where Bonanza is insta sold out. So I don't know if people maybe tried to ride the hype on Rarity 2 and then caught a restock, which was above pre-order pricing, and that's why like the MSRP is a little bit higher. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out.
Do you mean
like from my
when you divide it by 2, it's still higher? Because Rarity 2 is the double pack, remember?
Very vague. Like it's probably on par.
Okay.
Like it's hit that mid. Yeah. It's like 12 versus like 20 on MSRP or something. Ignore that. Like our dollar is 65 cents on the dollar, so it's not that heinous, but it's still interesting to see. Like
Yeah.
And just a product like this is, like it sells. Like this price point has been working for them, I
Yeah.
guess. So, except for Rarity 2, allegedly.
Yeah, well, Rarity 2, I think that was the whole thing, is the quality of the cards was
Yeah.
lower, and I don't, like Esther said, I think people just didn't
Would
like
you rather more like? Because I think we discussed this when Rarity 1 came out. Like, would you rather more Bonanza as opposed to like a distribution like Rarity 1?
I would rather, I think now, after having like seen the aftermath a little bit, I think the Bonanza model is better, I think.
Sure.
I think it is. I think
sort of like spread card quality, give everyone a little bit of everything. You still have your high roll potential.
I think having a guaranteed hit goes a long way, and having the hit pool be so wide means there's still variety in what you're opening, which also goes a long way.
You don't dumpster card.
You have to open a lot of packs to get duplicates of these cards, and I think that is something that we've talked about a lot previously, is when they put the same cards,
being 100 cards, you're seeing the same thing.
You're just seeing the same cards over and over and over again.
And
like, then they're reprinting.
And you're really trying to break down, like, hey, where's the hidden short print? Oh, they said it doesn't exist, but then you see these, like, like that's like where it becomes the downside, right? Like you're watching people crack all these cases, and it's just like stack of 20, stack of 80 or something, right? And I think having a more shallow card pool sort of also takes away from that as well. Sort of doesn't put you in, like, you stare at this and you're just like, well, I have no chance of pulling this card. It's like, no, it's about uneven. Like,
how many cards were the first 2 quarter century sets?
I will pull that up right now.
So we have 278 for this one.
79. Rarity 1 was 79 because it was the same as the Japanese one, but minus maxi. The Japanese one was 80.
Right.
And then Rarity 2 was also 79. I don't know. I don't think that's including the alternate arts, and I don't think the alternate arts have equal distribution, but I'm not 100% sure. Like, I think you get, like, the same number of alternate art, like Eldritch, as you do as, like, Ash. Like, I don't think they, like, split the card into 2 between the arts. So I guess I think it's technically, like, 81 when you account for the alternate arts. I think. I'm not 100% certain. But yeah, it's like 80-ish, we'll say. And did this end up being actually on the official product description? It still says set size TBD for Bonanza. So I actually don't know how many let's check a different website.
Sorry,
that might tell me.
While you do this, I'm just looking at TCG, and the lowest.
It is a 78. It is a 78 card. Yeah, it is a 78 card pool.
2 pages of $20 cards.
So it's 78 instead of 79 for the main pool, and then this says 198 because I guess it is 198, and then the 3 artworks of Dark Magician Girl make it 200. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I don't remember if the main set of Bonanza has an alternate art. I don't know. Or has, like, different arts of cards. Oh, does 1 for 1 comes in 2 different arts. All right, so I'm gonna ballpark it somewhere between 78 and 82 based on alternate arts and how it's distributed. I don't know exactly. So to answer your question, the main pool of the set is about the same size for all 3 of them. I guess where were you going with that now that we've figured that out?
Oh, so I was just trying to think if so, like, if cards like Ash Blossom and Imperm were in these larger sets, do you think they would still have, like, a price point of it? So, like, a Ash Blossom QCR is like $150. Imperm is like 80 or something like that.
I think you could maybe argue they might be more expensive.
I think they'd be more expensive.
We look at how much the cards are for in Bonanza, and they are, like, significantly less than
they are, but I feel like nothing fits that sort of role in this set, right? Like nothing's a 3 of hand trap that probably has a lot more longevity. A lot of this is more legacy, more anime based, right? I can't look at a card on here and think I need 3 copies of it, right? Like that's sort of where I'm at.
Like Thrust, but again, that's not like that's not the level of Ash Blossom. right?
Yeah,
Like
for
that's
sure.
No.
and
I don't think really anything is. So Thrust is like $50 right now.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
It is the
Caius is
most
$50,
expensive.
but
Yeah,
that's for legacy
Thrust is the most
format.
expensive of
Yeah,
the normal card pool.
Yeah,
Everything else,
Um,
I feel like is treading like the usual suspect sort of thing. Like this is an Amazon card, this is an eBay card. Like it's nostalgia, like literal nostalgia, right? Your Dark
Yeah.
Magicians, your Blue Eyes, whatever. Like I would argue Engage is sort of on par with that now as well. Like, Ryan, you will scream at me. I don't think that deck
Yeah.
is playable, but I think Engage is not expensive because Sky Striker is good. It's expensive because it's Sky Striker, and it's the alt art as well, right? For the
no, this is the original art for
the original art?
Engage,
Okay.
and I mean it's in the legacy card pool, so
Oh,
it's
okay,
definitely
sure.
it's harder to pull. So it's one of the more pricier cards, like
it's like
40 bucks or
$40.
something.
Yeah, it's like 40-ish,
Yeah.
floating around 40. Yeah. All right. Well, we spent more time on Bonanza than I thought we would, but we talked about actual things that we had actual opinions on it. So that's good. Now I want to talk about.
Let's guess. When do you think they're going to announce the
Sure.
next Bonanza?
I don't know what they put in it. What do they put in the next set? I genuinely don't know what you can do.
I can say 5: Trap Dust Shoot, Bottomless Trap Hole, Dimensional Prison, Royal
I think
Oppression.
there's lots of retro cards you can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I think also they put something we didn't talk about is how they only put like half the charmers in this.
Oh, yeah. So
it was Araya, Dark, and
Win, I believe.
Yes.
Which I have something on that. In Japan, they had a similar reprint set, a similar Rarity Collection-esque set. And they had 2 that were released at the same time. They were both
like the
card
Unity one.
Yeah, there's Quarter Century Chronicle Unity and Quarter Century Chronicle Pride, and Unity had Win, Dark, and Hida. Okay, so they didn't even give us the same 3, but what did they give us? Dark, Wind, and Area, and the water
Dark
one.
Wind, Araya, yeah.
Yeah, so they gave us Dark, Wind, and Water. So Japan's set had Dark, Wind, Fire, and then the other set had Light, Earth, Water, which I guess they're probably just like, I imagine there has to be one more QCR set that gives us the other 3 Charmers, and then, some amount of the remaining retro reprints. But as far as like modern cards, I have no idea what they could possibly.
I mean, they also were doing like 2 versions each of like the hand traps, like the hand traps and their alternate art, and in these sets, and they didn't do that for Ash Blossom. So it's a good chance that they do Feat Ash Blossom. Well, there's Ogre.
We don't have both artworks.
No, not both artworks. Yeah, the alternate art is.
Yeah. I know. I'm saying like, yeah. So yes, I agree. Like a bunch of the cards we didn't get both artworks for either. So there could definitely be a final Bonanza QCR set with the other Charmers, and they give us the other arts of all the hand traps that we're missing, because we're missing the other art of Ash, we're missing the other art of Ogre. Well, we're missing the regular art, the original art of Ogre actually. We're missing the original art of Phantasme, which is a random one that they only gave us the alt art for.
Which I hate.
Funny.
Yeah.
It's so ugly.
Yeah. So that's the one I want most of all. Is I want the regular art of Phantasme.
Yeah, but I predict we're going to get 2 more Bonanza like sets.
2 more. Okay. Sure.
I think 2025 we'll have 2. We'll have 2 of them.
So part of me thinks with a lot of these, alt arts and everything else is like we saw the Live Twin bundle get released on Master Duel as well. We've seen the touch-ups. We know how they would, censor it for us.
Yeah.
Like potential for that to also come out. The other thing maybe I'd like to see is depending on how licensing goes, I would think the Lost Arts are also something that could be quite cool to maybe have in Quarter Century Rare, especially because they kind of fell flat. And I think look, a lot of them probably just fall flat anyway in a set like this because they're not that desirable. But it would be cool. It does pad stuff out, and it sort of just keeps the flow going. But it might devalue stuff that's already not worth anything. So I'm not sure. like I said, the same issue that I have is like, wait, how do you fill a set like this? Do you make it smaller? Do you keep it the same size as Bonanza? Like, where are we at? But if it's in a later part of the year, maybe there's enough cards to reprint in the product cycle where it's okay. Like, Like they had Witch, Wanted, whatever. They even had, you know, their Ostinato and stuff like that. Surely there's enough cards they can claw from a competitive metagame and just reprint and have people be happy. But
It's just rough because you have to think, so like as far as the archetype specific cards go, you have to make these sets so far in advance, and then you have to think these cards are still relevant, and you have to think these cards won't get banned, right? So like
yeah, literally,
it's a tough balancing act, which sometimes they do very well. Sometimes we get 2017 tins where the Zodiacs get banned a month later, right? Like stuff like that. But yeah, yeah. I mean, it's tough, but
How about that for the next one? How about that's the next push of legacy support? We see all the Zodiacs in quarter century.
all the Zodiac, yeah, whatever,
Okay
man.
with that.
I mean, I expect things like that should.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. Yeah.
The what's it called? Like tier limits still. There's
Yep.
like there's a lot of stuff like that. I expect actually like a
Spiral
lot of
Tough?
that stuff because
Hello?
those are like
Okay.
Yeah,
Anyways.
sure.
Yeah.
I honestly, Riot, at this point, yeah.
At this
By all
point,
means,
Spiral
like,
Tough is nostalgic enough, right? Like, might as well.
I
Yeah,
can picture them sitting in the office writing all of, you know, like they were doing the reveals on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
And they were just like, you just knew they were Billy, you know, quotes. They were so funny, and they were just so tongue in cheek. And I'm just like, he's probably gonna enjoy when they have a set, and he's just able to write about every single card. He's like, I wonder why CS was this one. It's like throw back to this event, like you know what I mean? Like
No.
just the knowledge. He's gonna enjoy that more than making the actual set probably. So yeah, I guess they can just dip to the pool. They could do Burning Abyss. They could do whatever, right?
Oh,
Like,
Burning
if they
Abyss would
put
be
that-
great.
yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
those would be great. You know what? Maybe I was selling it short. I think that we don't think about like when people think about Yu-Gi-Oh. To be honest, they think about it in different eras only of the modern era, the original like classic like Duelist Kingdom era, and then sometimes a lot of people talk, and then the different like anime eras. There are a lot of competitive eras that I think like are really enjoyed by the player base that people would like,
yeah.
and like if I pulled a Necrozov Prionic in a Bonanza pack, like I would smile. I love that card, and I think there's definitely like sort of like an untapped a lot of untapped eras of Yu-Gi-Oh that it's now been long enough that I think
Right, that was I was going
yeah.
to say, like, if they put like 2022 cards in the nostalgia pool,
I wouldn't like that.
No, they already did. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
They did that, so you can do things like Burning Abyss,
Yeah.
and you can do things like, I mean, by the time another one comes out, like the rest of the Fire King cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if the Fire King cards do stand out as
the
as
Mermails,
cards that could
right?
hit
Mermails,
that. Yeah, the
as well.
Mermails as well.
Anything more Mermail related,
Yeah.
I wouldn't
But-
like. I would really appreciate something like when they first announced Bonanza, and I kind of thought about it a little bit. Something that I kind of hoped was they would like pick. I mean, this would be ambitious, but like pick a card from like every core set. But like that's a lot of work and a lot of like knowledge that I think a lot of the player base like wouldn't really appreciate when they just like pull some random card and you're like, what is this card? And it's like, oh well, we picked this good card from like Pharaonic Guardian, and then they're like, what's a Pharaonic Guardian? Like how do you explain to somebody who started playing Yu-Gi-Oh in 2023 that this card was good in 2000?
Okay, well now that you say that,
but-
I feel like now they're gonna do like Gate Guard. Is Gate Guardian a QCR?
It's
not,
collector
right?
rare. It's not a it's a
It's
collector rare.
collector's
It's not a
rare, yeah.
QCR,
So like something like Gate Guardian, like Tri-Horn Dragon, like stuff like that. I
Yeah.
feel like that's something.
I think there's a fine like Gate Guardian is fine. I think there is a fine line like Tri-Horn Dragon. I don't think anybody cares. Unfortunately, like I don't think that one is.
Hey, that's an
as
original
beloved.
secret rare.
I know it is. And
got turned into a memento monster. So
Yeah, it did, didn't it? It did, right? Yeah, it sure did.
Yeah.
All right then. Yeah, I think I would prefer. I think this Bonanza had a lot of like really old like Injection of Fairly, Gemini Elves, like Mechanical Chaser. Like I think they've covered that bases. I think the next sort of one can be a celebration of like the more modern I have in quotes, like 2015, 2016 I think there were a lot of cool decks. You know what? There's new ABC support coming out in Maze of Millennia. Wouldn't be a bad time to have the ABC Fusion Monster or Union Hanger QCR. Like, that would be fine. I think it's been long enough. People like those cards.
You know what? If they don't call it
Yeah.
like Quarter Century Bonanza 2 Electric Boogaloo, which I think they probably should.
Electric
I think-
Boogaloo. They're gonna call
Yes.
it. Okay.
Shut up.
All right. Yeah.
I think they could go with a theme of Quarter Century Bonanza Eras Edition and just choose
Yeah.
the different eras of Yu-Gi-Oh that are the most popular. And I think like DUEA format with like Shadalls and Burning Abyss and Necroz
Oh, yeah.
and where like
That-
Teller Knights, like they can just choose like all these eras that like they know were the most
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah.
And just bring out cards from each of those.
That has to be one of the most like beloved formats of all time, right? Like Haha Jin was kind of toxic, but like then they banned it. But like that has to be, I think most people look back on that time as like the most fun they've had playing Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's still one of
probably.
my favorite. It
Yeah.
probably is my favorite.
Like it is,
Yeah,
there were
either that
so
or
many
the,
decks. There were so many decks, and they were all actually kind of good, and like they weren't so different from each other that you just had random matchups you couldn't win, which is something that I think a problem with a lot of the wide formats is there are just like, well, if I want to beat this deck, I have to side for this. If I want to beat this deck, I have to side for this. Oh no, I played against the fifth deck that I didn't side for, and you lose instantly because that's just how it works. And I think that was a format where like if you practiced, the ways you beat the different matchups were not always just silver bullet side cards. It was a lot of like technical play and like knowledge of how the different decks worked and how you leverage what your deck did against them. And I think that is like something that obviously that still exists, but I think it was way more pronounced then than it is now.
Yeah.
But
when the level of intricacy was playing around Shadal Fusion, right?
yeah.
Setting up your board in a way that doesn't
Yeah.
get absolutely destroyed by it.
Yeah.
Those are the fun ones for sure.
Yeah, so yeah, I could see that. I think we could have a Bonanza set that shifted a little like we can turn the dial a little closer to the present, right?
Yeah. Also, just random things. I'm thinking about like things that they didn't do. Like they only got like some of the Orcus cards, like, but and not only like some of the Thunder Dragon cards, and one of them wasn't even actual Thunder Dragon, which is a card played in a retro format.
Yeah.
So I there's still plenty I think they could put together for a Bonanza type 2 set. So, but yeah, we did spend a lot more talking on that than
but I think we actually said relevant things. So that's good. All right, now crossover breakers. I think so. Crossover breakers is the next set that will be legal for. I don't think there are any events between now and Anaheim, right? We've now done them all. We had the remote YCS last weekend. Yeah, so the next event is December 5th, 6th, that weekend, and Crossover Breakers is legal. So, I think a lot of people have been talking about these decks, specifically Ryzeal and Maliss. There is a third deck in this set. I don't know what it's called. I don't know what it does, because it's probably...
It's Ryu Gi.
Okay. Is it good?
Like the cards aren't bad, but they're nowhere near the level of Maliss.
All right,
Ryzeal.
then we'll ignore them for now. I guess. Yeah. Yeah. So I think the reason a lot of people are talking about these cards is because in Japan, or at least our perception of the Japanese metagame based on pie charts that are spread around on Facebook and Twitter, and like tournament results of their YCSs and their city championships and stuff like that.
Their version of a YCS.
Yeah. But like I'm not saying like a lot of the time I think people just see these pie charts and they go like, oh my god, and then they don't actually like look any closer at like the metagame, and maybe these things aren't.
There are definitely some of these pie charts that are like, wow, I can't believe Ryzeal was like 50% of the field and it was like a 12-person tournament or something.
Yeah. But then like if you look at these results of some of these tournaments that have 500 people in different regions, like I'm looking at one now where like top cut is like top 32 of a 500 person tournament is like 14 Ryzeal and like 7 or 8 Maliss, and it's like like that's what it is. And I think some people are kind of expecting identical results here, and I think we need to take a step back and analyze why their metagame looks like that and the differences our metagame could have. And a big one is we still have a Snake Eyes deck, right? Like Japan,
Yes.
the OCG
They
basically doesn't.
Yes. When these decks came out, basically almost immediately around the same time, their Forbidden List basically hit the hammer on the Snake Eye cards, limiting like Bonfire, Wanted, Witch, Snake Eye Ash, Snake Eye Poplar. I'm probably missing something else. Basically all to one. And
Which
which
I will say, these decks did do well in Japan and China and the OCG, even when those decks still existed. But obviously
right.
now it's just been amplified because the other decks got banned. But like, it's not to say that Ryzeal had 0 spots and then Snake Eyes got banned and now suddenly Ryzeal's the best deck. Ryzeal was trending upwards to be the most represented deck, or at least close to it in a lot of these tournaments, or at least we're still doing very, very well, even before they really got rid of these decks. But yes, sorry, keep going.
Yeah, and they had there's like Engraver and Tract, and they also hit Tenpai Chandra, and it was just like all of the decks before.
It was a bloodbath. It was a body bag.
It was it was all the decks before got hit, and it's something that I've always had a huge problem with the OCG, where they do like little bit, or nothing, and then they hit everything all at once, and then at the same time a whole bunch of other stuff comes out that probably means that you didn't have to go as hard on these other decks, and then these other decks are just dominant, and it gets like really stale and boring, and that is something a TCG I think has learned kind of not to do, and you will see it in our format. We will have probably more of a tri format. These decks, like Maliss and Ryzeal, will just be 2 more good decks in the pool of good decks that are topping every event over the weekends.
And maybe they'll push some of the weaker ones out. Like
I 100%.
yeah, which like if it's just because of how good they are, you know, people will like not play the other decks because like people who were playing some of the weaker decks might switch to this one, me included. I'm probably gonna drop Centurion and play Ryzeal, which, you know,
and I will probably drop Fire King and play Maliss.
And play Maliss. Yeah, right. Yeah. If not only just because we think they're strong, just because like I kind of want something else to do. You know, I want to move. Yeah. I want to move some different cards around. You know, like nothing wrong with that. I don't think. But yeah, the other big difference is, if you look at how some of these decks in the OCG are constructed, I just tabbed away from it. I think ours will look pretty different because their decks are basically their format from an outsider looking in, not just looking at the spreadsheets, but looking at the results of these bigger tournaments. Ryzeal and Maliss seem to be most of the format. And the way these decks are constructed is they appear to be very, very heavily targeting just those 2 decks. And I think that's where the other decks can kind of sneak in, is when these decks that don't automatically fold to a lot of the cards that are being played, is when those kind of rogue decks can shine, right? Like if you're looking at these decks and you're like, okay, everyone is siding Barrier, everyone is siding Lancia, because Barrier is really good against Ryzeal and Lancia is really good against Maliss. You probably shouldn't pick a deck you probably shouldn't pick a Banish Xyz deck, right? Like that's probably not your best option. You should probably pick something else. So I think that's where also like the meta game gets like narrower and narrower, is the decks that lose to the cards that already beat the most played decks now have no chance, which like...
Yeah, and something that I think to note is that neither of those cards are good against like the Snake Eye or Fire King as meta cards.
Yeah.
So that's like another big thing. But the thing that both these decks have in common that does combat that deck is the fact that we have Dimensional Shifter at 3 here. Yes. And that card absolutely fucks Fire King and the like the pure Snake Eye Azumina deck.
Yeah.
And before, like the deck that uses it the most right now is Tenpai. And you can kind of combat Tenpai by like using Fusho in your deck and like stalling a turn and then winning or trying to win on a next turn because they can't kill you. But that's not the case with Maliss and Ryzeal. Their game plan is not to kill you. They're just going to make it so you can't play and then amass a whole bunch of advantage and you're still not going to be able to play your next turn. So you can't Fucho your way into like surviving another turn and try to play through all their cards. It's just probably not going to work.
Yeah.
Um,
Which we see
So-
the early list in the OCG maining Dimension Shifter in Ryzeal and in Maliss. And then now that the decks that lose to Shifter have kind of pushed out of the metagame, we don't see those anymore. Kind of similar to like there was only one tournament in the TCG where full power tier and full power Kashtira were legal at the same time. It was the 3v3 in Mexico City and
France as well.
Right, you're right. And France is the same weekend. And we mained Dimension Shifter in our Kashtira decks because Terra Elements was still a deck. And then 1 week later, we didn't because because Kashtira was the presumed most popular deck, and then we sided Shifter instead. And then we, so we still had it. So I wonder what the consensus will be going into Anaheim. I wonder if the consensus will be Ryzeal and Maliss can put up enough of a fight. You don't need to main Shifter, and then you just have it in your side deck that you can just Yahtzee game 2 or 3. If you just open it, you win. Or if they're going to be, perceived to be like, I'm playing a worse deck, I will main Shifter, my deck will be worse in the mirror, and it will be better into the Snake Eyes deck, which I'm not sure yet which one I think will be more popular, because it's not like even necessarily which decks you think will be better, it's just which ones you think will be more represented, right? And it's like, well, Crossover Breakers came out yesterday, maybe the room won't be 600 Ryzeal decks. Maybe it'll be everyone playing the Snake Eyes decks they just got because they got reprinted in Bonanza. So maybe I will put Shifter my main or something like that. But that'll be kind of interesting, I think, to see where people end up on that one. But
something else to note is that for the YCS, this set comes out the week of.
Yes.
So it is very possible that people do not even play these decks and just play with the things they have or are comfortable with, especially since California is such a big area. People might just say, all right, I'm close, I'm just going to go, right? And this is what I have. So if we look at like the top decks right now, we have like Fire King and Snake Eye variants. We have Yubel, we have Tenpai. I would say those are the big three, and then slightly under that would be like Centurion and like maybe Memento. But we'll just say like Yubel and Tenpai. Yubel, I think, is like still a pretty good deck and did
sure.
pretty well last weekend. It has a much more powerful end board than any of the other decks. It also does decently well into Shifter because all of their effects say they just have to be destroyed. It does not matter if they're banished or not. And if the cards are banished, you have ways to get them back. So it is not the absolute worst if you get Shifted. You can still make a decent field and try to do something. Dimensional Barrier does hurt that deck pretty badly, unfortunately. It cuts off your access to obviously Phantom, but then any sort of fusion plays you would have with the Fiend guys.
The Fiendsmith.
Yeah. Fiendsmith, yeah, with Fiendsmith. And then the other deck, Tenpai, again, doesn't really lose to the Shifter, but also gets hit by Dimensional Barrier. So it's something else. That you already see Dimensional Barrier being heavily used right now to play against that deck, and you'll see it even more now. So I think Tenpai, again, down a little notch there. But I still think you will see these decks. Like, you will 100% think... I think Fire King is still incredibly strong. There's a world, like, if I cared enough, and I would just play the Fire King deck again, because I think it's still very, very good. Even with Ryzeal and Maliss. And the cards that your card economy is just so good, especially if people don't main Dimensional Shifter. All you have to do is like win one of your games and then not get shifted another one of your games, and you're probably fine.
Yeah, I mean
A
that is
lot.
kind of that's the story of a lot of these decks, right? It's like just you just cross your fingers, just don't draw shifter one of these games, please.
Yes.
Well, that card's probably banned, but that's a story for another time. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah. No, and then again, we do see that like Ryzeal does miss a crucial card that helps them in the
That was
OCG
gonna
right
be
now.
my next thing. Yep, go for it. Carry on.
Yeah. No, go ahead. I just rambled. You can go talk about it.
So
you like Ryzeal more than me anyway.
Yeah, there is this is it called Seventh Ascension? Or maybe that's a different one. It's some.
No, I think Seventh Ascension is the old one. But
it's some Tachyon, like it's some Zexal lore card that its effect is basically you reveal an Xyz monster, like a specific numbered one, maybe a chaos number one. I don't remember the exact text, but you reveal an Xyz monster, like a number Xyz monster, and then you search a monster with the same level as the rank of the one you reveal. It has to be like same. It has to be like the level matches the rank, and then the type and attribute might also have to match, or just one.
Yeah,
there's some
it's
restrictions.
Seventh Tachyon.
Seventh Tachyon.
It says
okay.
reveal a number Xyz from your extra deck that has a number between 101 and 107.
Yes, it has to
Add
be one of
monster
the
with
fake numbers.
Type.
Yeah.
Yeah,
one of the
same
Tachyon
type
numbers,
and or attribute as the
Cool,
revealed monster, and a level equal to its rank from your deck to your hand. Then place a card from your hand on top of your deck.
Yeah. So
until the end of the turn, you can only summon Xyz monsters.
Yeah. So it's like an additional searcher type card, which Ryzeal can play to search some of its starters, and then additionally they can play one of the Chaos. I think it's the Chaos Star Seraph. Is a rank 5 fairy, and they can search Lancia with it, which is extremely relevant against Maliss. And I haven't looked at the entire toolbox of what you can search with that card because your options are kind of limited. They have to be numbers between 101 and 107, and there are only so many of those. Like you can do the regular ones and the chaos ones, whatever. But we don't have that card, so the consistency of the Ryzeal deck, I actually don't think the consistency will be affected that much. We don't have that card. However, Bonfire, one of the Ryzeals is a Pyro, and Bonfire is limited.
More than one of them.
Oh, yeah, yes. Multiple of them are Pyro, and Bonfire is limited to one in Japan. We have 3 still, so we have multiple Bonfires. And then a lot of these Ryzeal decks also play Desires, which is not at 3 in Japan, but is at 3 here. So with the combination of the extra Bonfires and the extra Desires, I do think the overall consistency is gonna be pretty similar. Like I don't, not having the Tachyon card and being worried about consistency that's not really something I would be worried about as far as like picking up or dropping Ryzeal for the TCG because we don't have that card. The more relevant thing, in my opinion, is the utility of searching cards post side,
being able to search a floodgate.
Yeah, because like how the OCG, how a lot of these decks have kind of like developed, is they've developed into like who can trade turn skips more consistently, which is extremely toxic. And you'll see the Maliss deck hope to have more dimensional barriers than the Ryzeal deck can get to Lancia's, because Lancia is basically a turn skip against Maliss, like as close as you can get to these cards, right? So it is really like it's pretty toxic. That's what it's developed into. However, as we mentioned, we have a wider variety of decks here, which get turn skipped by different cards, right? Like Dimension Shifter will just turn skip the other decks. So yeah, maybe it won't be so fun to just trade barriers and Dimension Shifters and all these things, but like it is what it is. And without this Tachyon card, Ryzeal cannot as consistently access one of its pretty crucial side cards in the OCG metagame, but we'll see how much that ends up mattering. Like it'll really just be like if Maliss is super represented, then we will see the Ryzeal Maliss matchup probably skew more favored Maliss here than it is in the OCG, because they don't have 3 to 5 of a card. And there's another Tachyon card that can just search this card also. So they could just have essentially 8 copies of Lancia post side if they really wanted to. So the Maliss matchup for sure is worse for Ryzeal compared to
Yeah.
how it is in the OCG. So if Maliss is super represented, I feel like Ryzeal maybe won't do as well, but we'll, obviously that's a lot of
Yeah.
hypotheticals.
I still think that I think Malice will do better here than it does in Japan currently.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if Ryzeal is like the S tier deck, Malice is like the A tier deck, I think they will be more in line. The one issue is that when it comes to things like Lancia and Dimensional Barrier only works going first, and Lancia works both going first and second,
Yeah.
which is something that, like, if you Malice has to, it's like getting drooled going second. Like, you just can't do anything. You can't play through a field and drool. It's the same thing where you can't play through your opponent's field under Lancia most of the time, which is quite a big deal. Lancia is like, when Lancia is good, it's like a Abyss Dweller. Like, when those cards are good, the formats
They're
just feel
insane.
so terrible.
They're insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is why things like the Fire King deck might just be the correct pick to go to. It doesn't really have any of those weaknesses and can use all of those cards like Dimensional Barrier and Lancia also. And if randomly, like, it can come up where if you get like Shifter turn 1 and you have a Lancia, on your opponent's turn you can ditch the Lancia, and cards actually won't get banished that turn. So if you have things that can pop and destroy, they will go to the graveyard that turn, and your opponent can't play their Malice cards. And if you have Dimensional Barrier against the Ryzeal deck, they're not playing, and then you get to play on your turn. So it's kind of similar stuff. I still think if anyone thinks that these are going to be the only two decks, they're severely mistaken.
I think these decks will be good. They will absolutely not be the only decks. Like, absolutely not. We have plenty of good things to choose from. So just a difference in card pool, difference in forbidden and limited lists, like a lot of differences that I think some people maybe aren't taking into account. But I don't know, maybe it's just obviously I'm sure there are other people with the exact same opinions that we have that are just not shouting it from the rooftops.
Or they could have the opposite one. They could think, now these guys are wrong. Like, it's all about Ryzeal or whatever.
Yeah, I just feel like whenever new cards come out, people very, very, very often automatically, like, every single new card that's ever come out in Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever makes the game unplayable. Every single one, without exception, obviously. I feel like that's how a lot of people act. It's just like, well, when the next set comes out, the game will be terrible again. It's like, all right, calm down. like maybe not.
It was kind of like that. Where, like, up until this last set, it was like, well, I guess what's it called? U-Bell is just the best deck, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but then the new set comes out, and then like the Fire deck is the best deck again. And well, the Fire deck is the best deck again. Like,
that's true.
But yeah, it was very U-Bell got to shine for only not that long, actually.
Yeah, really not very long. A couple weekends of regionals and like a European YCS, and then approximately nothing else. But I think that actually covers all of the releases through the end of the year, right? Like, there's nothing else after Crossword Breakers till 2025, which
not this year, yeah.
Yeah, which means we did not get a structure deck in 2024. That's crazy.
Surprise!
Yeah.
We will get one, just not this year.
Yeah, which I guess the only pre-constructed deck... Oh, I almost said the only pre-constructed deck that we got was the 2-player starter set, and that only came out in 2024 because it got delayed. It was supposed to come out in 2023. So, the last structure deck was the Fire King structure deck in December of 2023, and there was nothing in 2024. And then here we have the Blue Eyes White Destiny structure deck in February, which not a whole lot to comment on, but maybe we can just talk about like the update as of last month with the extra card. Like, how do we feel about each deck will also include a bonus extra card, a second copy of Maiden of White, which is for Eyes of Blue, or Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit Dragon. All 3 of these cards are already in the deck, but you'll also get a second copy. And there's a chance of that secret rare card upgrading to a quarter century secret rare instead. This is from the product description on the main website.
I like stuff like this, right? Like, starter decks get boring, man.
They do.
I don't know. Like, okay, boring relative to where you're at normally. So like the one,
I think a lot of
I
modern
Jeff
games
about
are doing this now, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. Like One Piece did it. I know like some of the Y Schwartz ones let you do stuff like that too. I think Vanguard has something similar, and it's like
Japan's been doing this for a while too, right? Like Japan has been
Give
doing
yourself
this
a
for their
chance for
structure decks
potential.
for a long time.
Yeah.
So good. I'm glad this isn't quite the same, but I'm glad they're catching up. Also, I guess I'll interject. No one asked. The Universe Structure decks, as of they revamped them this year, and they include, they call it like a collector pack, and in addition to your pre-constructed deck, you get a booster pack that has foil versions of some of the commons and alternate arts of some of the foils. So, and they're randomized, obviously, like you don't get everything in one pack. So if you want all of them, you got to buy a bunch of decks, or you trade with people that, got decks or whatever. And, I think adding some randomized element to your pre-constructed product is like
a
it just-
randomized element that doesn't
yeah.
like make the product worse for
Yes.
you than it does someone
Yes.
else, right?
That's
Yes.
the biggest one
Yes.
for me.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Like
Like you're still effectively
product
getting all the
versus
same
alien.
cards. You're just getting like a little random gotcha upgrade.
Yeah, which is so like mechanically you are getting every like as far as like the mechanical utility of the cards, like you are getting the same cards.
They're the same, yeah.
And then there can be and then I think a cosmetic upgrade is a very good way to randomize a starter deck product or a structure deck like an introductory or like intermediate level product. I think that, I mean, not to say that obviously structure decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, like the best deck currently is from a structure deck, right? Like the Fire Kings technically are from, granted only like 5 cards in the deck are actually from the structure deck, but technically you're playing a modified structure deck. I guess somebody might say you just got to modify about 34 of the cards, and then there you go, right? But yeah, overall, I think this is a great change. I think this is one that I've seen mostly no one complain about, shockingly. Like this is one of the shocking things that I've seen literally no pushback on. Like, because we even saw people complaining about the crossover breakers rarity thing, where like some rares could be super, and people were like, that makes cards harder to get, and I'm like, what is happening? what is going on? Like I don't know. But yeah, this is one that I've truly seen nobody complain about, which like good. Let's keep that up, and hopefully when this ends up being good and everyone likes it, then they'll keep it like this, and we'll just get extra cards in all of our products, right? In all of our structure decks. Like if every structure deck comes with a second copy of one of the ultra rares as a rarity upgrade card, because you don't have to only get like some people would just want the secret rare versions, right? Like that's also something, right? It's like some people
there are people like who go to my locals who are like, I mean, my entire deck is basically QCR, right? I'll play against people locals, and they're like, "Ugh, QCRs are so gross. How do you like those QCRs?" And I was like, "Well, I like them." But they're like, they're more of like the ultimate rares more. They're like, ultimate rares are so much better. So I mean, there are going to be people who don't want the QCR. They'll want something else,
And I think that's just a good option to have multiple different rarities of these cards that usually are only in a flat rarity, right? And yeah, I don't know. I have nothing to say about this other than good job. Keep doing this, please. I think this is great.
Yeah, literally.
The only thing
that
only for our benefit, right?
Yeah. What, Jeff? Sorry.
Yeah, the only thing I'm curious of is so if we don't get another structure deck for another year, and we'll assume that 2025 is actually the last year of quarter century stuff.
We'll assume the third 25th anniversary is the last 25th anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah.
What kind of rarity bumps will you see then? What'll they do? Will they just go to Starlight maybe? Will we go back to Starlights? And I don't know. I think I really don't know what's gonna happen after QCRs go away. I think that maybe I don't know if I don't think I talked about this on the last podcast. Maybe I did. But some of the cards that are coming out in Japan now, the new special box set with like new Orcus cards and stuff, all have special stamps on them that are the symbol of like the Orcus symbol. So like where our 25th anniversary stamp is, they have the Orcus symbol stamped on the middle of the card. And I thought, I wonder if maybe they go that way.
I would love to see that.
And the rarity upgrades will now just be like Starlights with special different stamps, like a starter deck that had let's say they made a Red Eyes structure deck and they had like some sort of like Red Eye symbol stamped on the card or something like that.
I would love that. I think now Yu-Gi-Oh seemed so adverse to stamps for the longest time, and then now I think like the QCR stamps obviously have like been pretty successful for a couple of years now, and like the one random Adidas stamp, like did anybody ever like did we ever get to the bottom of that? Like that was so random, right? That is something that I still feel like I made up. like a borderline,
it feels like a fever dream, right?
Yeah, literally, where it's like, we just shadow dropped this shoe that looks like Dark Magician, sort of, and here's a card that says Adidas on it. I'm like, all right, like I guess this is real, So, and then there was that other clothing brand that had like a random New York flagship store collab with Yu-Gi-Oh, and you got like a Karibo with a stamp or something. I don't remember the specifics. I don't remember the specifics.
That was an OCG Karibo, right? It wasn't.
But it was yes, but it was an OCG.
Yeah, no, because that was something they had that drop in Japan, and then I think they have a store here, and
then they had a store in New York, and they did it. Yeah. I don't remember what it was. I think it's a brand. I think if I remember correctly, it was a brand like owned by Uniqlo, but it wasn't Uniqlo. It's like a store that they own.
I can think of as Uniqlo, because I own a lot of Uniqlo clothes.
I think it's a store that they own. They have like a brand store that they own that's like technically a different brand in New York City, and they had a drop with it. But anyways, that's too specific. Yes, stamps would be stamps would be cool. I think we've seen a lot of stamps. I'm hoping eventually, God, can we just get a YCS stamp on a card? Good Lord. Like, please, can, and even something that would be so, like, it's presumably such a small thing. Maybe this this thing that I think is small is actually
small
just
a consumer. I know.
I'm sure it's extremely difficult.
There's so much red tape associated.
Is like,
it's just not.
I think one of the biggest, like, we talk about pricing all the time for the WCQ pricing. When they hand out 100 super rare copies of this year's prize card, and they are worth nothing because it's at the end of the year, there are 1 million of them in circulation already, and then at the WCQ they hand out, I think it's like close to 50 copies of them, right? And then between all WCQs they hand out like 200 or whatever. Little WCQ stamp on the super rare one, so it's differentiated, and it's from the WCQ, and it's at least, granted, there's still going to be 200 of them. There's still going to be a lot of them, but it'll just be slightly more interesting. It'll be like, I just really don't like the way the prize cards are, in air quotes, serialized right now. I just think is not very good. The ultra rares having the event is fine. The super rares just saying this was a prize card from the year of blank season, that's just nothing. And I feel like if they had different ones for the WCQ, even if it can't be a stamp, if they had at the WCQ, it said this was one at the WCQ 2024 season, instead of this was a YCS prize card for 2024 season.
And I feel like we're opening an entire can of worms here.
Yeah.
With this topic, we're talking about prizes again.
Of course,
but again, before we get onto a big tangent, the only thing that I do care about like more, but the big thing is that I think YCS prize cards are the ugliest rarity. The fact that they're not a unique rarity, or even just something better than an ultra rare,
or super
bothers
rare,
the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Why aren't they just like prismatic or something? They could just be they can be prismatic. They could be starlight, like the old starlight or something, like literally anything other than ultra rare. Ultra rare is the worst rarity. I think 99% of people would agree with that.
Yeah, not a big fan of ultra rare. Also, like, aren't the world's prize cards are like platinum secret rare, right? I'm pretty sure
they are now. They didn't used to be, but I'm pretty sure they are now. Yeah.
Well, I think
they were extra secret rare.
Yeah. Which is
extra secret rare is kind of like platinum, right?
Yeah, it platinum secret rare is very similar to extra secret rare, which I think and when I say that, I mean they've been that since 2013, I think, right? I think they've been extra secret rare / platinum secret rare since 2013. I know they did used to just be, whatever, plain rarities, but I'm pretty sure when I saw the picture of like, maybe they weren't all, maybe 2013's too, whatever, but they are now. Yes, they have been for some number of years. I don't know exactly how many years, but they have been for some number of years. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a YCS prize card. It's only different than super rare, for sure. Like, yeah. All right. That maybe gets to the end of the TCG stuff and OCG stuff we want to talk about. Bohdan, you mentioned something earlier about the live twin stuff on Master Duel. Have you been playing a lot of Master Duel? Do you want to talk about that for a
I
little bit?
mean, the format hasn't really changed too much. It's basically what you would expect. They had Melodious release, so people were trying that. They announced the Duelist Cup, which so it's usually a 2-week gap. You have your stage 1 into like your stage 2, and the stage 2 weekend would be. Let me get the date up for those of you who don't pay
The
attention to it.
21st of December, I think. 21st.
So it would start
20th?
yeah, the 20th
20th, yeah.
into the 23rd, which would that's for my time zone, I believe. So I don't know, or whatever, shift it back one day if you're
Yeah.
in America. So yeah, no, like it looks pretty reasonable. They had the live twin like package and stuff like that. I think there's speculation for Fiendsmith coming out at some point, because there's like another set that's meant to come out, and like that would be kind of cool.
Yeah,
Maybe
they
not
do monthly
really.
releases, yeah.
Yeah, might sort of throw some stuff out of whack, but we saw Tenpai really just take up a good chunk of the metagame. It's just simple. The games are done quickly. And it's also like kind of exploitable too, which is like the good part, right? You can sort of metagame for rated. But I'm still watching like you guys know Joey, right? Like I'm watching Joey play Master Duel. He's a grinder and he's just been playing Tenpai, crushing like rated. He's been crushing like our team wars that we
He
play
topped
as well.
Niagara with Tenpai, right? In the TCG?
He did,
Yeah.
yeah. He's been cooking, bro. Everyone's been
Mhm.
copying. Joey set the standard for that deck for sure. Everyone's been
Yeah.
copying his deck, which is really cool. But just like seeing what the new toys tend to do in an online game is kind of interesting, because everyone sort of just like has played so many games with the deck that when a new set drops, you do see this shift and you see these pocket formats. And Duelist Cup is sort of like the culmination, like where people like, okay, now we have to metagame properly. But we saw it with Fire King, and we saw a bunch of Fire King hits as well. It's like kind of watered down, still a playable deck. Tenpai, I expect to maybe get some hits coming up, just based on like the numbers alone. I think you can't leave that deck
just
unchecked
cannot
any
exist in
further.
Master Duel like
Yeah,
that.
for sure, for sure. I it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
what they decide to do, because they're already preemptive hits, but they weren't big enough. Which is the big concern. So yeah, I'm excited to see what Duelist Cup this season will bring. It feels like it might be a little bit broader than prior seasons for sure. And there's more decks to play around with, so you don't have to metagame with decks like Voiceless Voice, which I think are just unplayable, even in a best of one setting. I don't think
Yeah.
you have to work so hard for your, like, that's the big thing for events like that, right? You working hard for your wins when you have to play an abundance of games and then try and hit a 60% win rate to peel top 10 or something.
That's the
And
best. I love working hard for my wins,
yeah.
Bohdan. I love
I
barely winning.
I know you do.
No.
specifically.
I love barely winning every game I play.
I know.
I have to be
when we were
sweating.
playing Fire. I said this last. I think we brought this up last time, and you're just like, "This looks like the worst deck I've ever played." And then you you dumpster your opponent, and you're just like, "Oh, okay, I get it now." Like it makes
like
sense, right?
Yes, continue. I just
but that's where like we're at now. I think like a lot of these decks now. So like Ubel obviously still in the metagame, and if Fiendsmith come out, like Ubel's still gonna exist and be pretty powerful. So it'll be interesting to see again, like where are the preemptive things happening? Like what's happening to mitigate those?
So speaking of Ubel, I know with Master Duel they have released cards like Promethean Princess before it's come out anywhere. Have they ever released a TCG exclusive on Master Duel before it's come out in Japan?
That was the link, right? That was. Let me find it. I don't know if that was that an OCG exclusive.
I'm just thinking, like, could they add Aerial Leader into it, which Japan does not have?
Yeah, potentially, right? Like that.
Because that's like a pretty big deal for Ubel.
That is reasonable. I think we've had it for some stuff before. It's definitely been a thing. I can't remember it for the life of me.
I definitely was looking
in the comments. For sure.
I definitely was looking at the release of one of the most recent Master Duel packs and looked at a card and was like, "Oh, I didn't."
Was that the Fire Link monster? Because that was one that I was trying to figure out.
Was it Pit Knight?
I think that might be an OCG.
Pit Knight.
Oh no, I know what you're talking about. There is a Fire
card,
Link
right?
monster. OCG is a Link 2 that OCG has that we still do not have.
Yeah. Okay. That's like the inverse of what you asked. I don't think they've done it for TCG. They might have. It might have been something weird. But traditionally, from what I remember, and like obviously there's probably some that don't matter that much. I don't think anything's really been on par with that. Aerial Eater would definitely be unique. It's something people would have to adapt to, especially the OCG combo players. But like they have Summon Sork legal, and that really hasn't made its way.
Do they still
into a
not
lot of
have
what you
Area
built up.
Eater? Didn't they just get a import pack? Oh, it was Ken
I
and
don't think that's
Gen.
Aerial Eater.
It was Ken and Gen were in
Ken and
Master
Gen,
Duel.
yeah.
But
Yeah, Aerial Eater just
I
came
do
out with
see
Fiendsmith
but-
for us, so
but
those
that
did
was
just
like
come
a
out.
set ago.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but those just
Yeah.
came out in Japan. Those came out in Japan like the last week of September or first
Recent
week of
extra
October
pack.
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have to wait till like
Oh, no,
next summer or
God.
something for Aerial Eater.
Potentially, yeah. Same with like Necro Quip and stuff like that.
Really? They
Yeah.
already
I guess
they already got Mine Castlin. That came out first.
In our tins, yeah.
Yeah, wait, did they
They-
Oh no, that came
yeah,
out
they-
1 week later than we got it. Yeah, that came out. Yeah, they came out in the same week. Interesting. Yeah.
So I do want to see like if they just forego Fiendsmith entirely, or the Master Duel devs look at TCG and then they give them Fiendsmith with no Lacrima, but if they do that, they have to give you Aerial and Quip, right? Like that's just where it would be at, I think, to sort of make it.
I need to interrupt.
Not an
real quick.
irrelevant release, but
I need to interrupt real quick. When I was just looking at the import pack, do you remember the like unexpected die like trap card that we got?
Yeah,
in,
that it's like tribute a warrior to destroy something.
Summon a warrior from your deck. Yeah. It's a summon
Yeah.
If you have no monster, summon a warrior from your deck. If you have a warrior, tribute it or whatever. Yeah. Sorry, I just saw the Japanese name for it, and the Japanese name is Unforeseen Guys, and guys is just all caps English. Sorry, I just needed to
guys.
unforeseen guys. I just had to bring that up. Okay, continue. Sorry, I needed to share that with the. All right, keep going.
No, I think that was
Okay,
really
that was it? All right, good.
Yeah, dude. Just look. I just want to see how the devs will tackle any of this, because obviously with the release coming close to Duelist Cup, more games are played during Duelist Cup, and are they just going to use that as their marker for anything ridiculous that could potentially come out, right? Like obviously most of it just comes down to speculation, or it's like the unsavories that we don't name their names that tend to drag that stuff out of the woodwork. Assuming that there are some of these really crazy TCG releases coming out, like with the last set with the Melodious stuff had Snake Eyes Diabell Star, the level 8, right? And that was just like too far gone. It's not playable in the Fire King deck. You can't really play pure in Master Duel. Like, will they stagger some form of Fiendsmith release? Like, will they ban the Lacrima instantly?
Is Beatrice banned in Master Duel?
I don't believe so. I'm pretty sure it isn't. We had it in the tier deck, I'm pretty sure. Let me check.
That's something that's obviously very relevant for.
Oh, actually,
like, the
hold
Fiendsmith cards.
Wait, which card?
Beatrice.
No, it's legal.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think
Okay.
Beatrice is still legal Master Duel. I think.
It's legal, yeah. I'm just looking at decks, and there are decks that have hit Master 1 as of November 15th, which is in the future for you guys, or maybe it is November 15th now.
In 30
And it
minutes.
has Beatrice.
Yeah.
Nope, in like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
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 it's almost
yeah.
midnight now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And
so
because
Jeff,
it's almost midnight, we have to wrap this up.
That's true. Yes, but yeah, Jeff, they released the Chimera cards as well, and yeah, they that deck can play Beatrice. Who would have thought? Cool. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, like all the Chimera stuff is out, right down to Master Tau, my baby.
I feel like that came really late.
It did, yeah. I think. Well, I don't think they can do the big sets and just dump everything instantly.
How the fuck did the U-Bell stuff come out before fucking all the Chimera cards?
I think maybe there was a bit more pandering for the U-Bell stuff. Maybe they're looking for like more of the playable metagames.
The second wave of Vanquish Soul, like Zhao Long came out before Unchained in Master Duel. Like that was a pretty big departure from the release schedule in paper, in both TCG and OCG. I don't know. They just do that sometimes, right? They'll pull a card from a set ahead before, like they'll pull an archetypal card from like 2 sets ahead before a different archetype from 1 set ahead or something like that.
And just try to like release them all at the same time.
Yeah, and then we get the Centurion thing where they just haven't released the last Centurion. Literally just like haven't released the last Centurion card in not even the ones from Rage of the Abyss. Like they haven't released the other tuner monster whose name I'm forgetting that draws a card. Yeah, so
I was about to say,
if I had more time, I'd find the sheet that tells you like what isn't in Master Duel and like what's TCG, what's OCG. You know, ignoring like the stuff that not even TCG has, just like meta relevant stuff, right? Because like Goddess is in there because Goddess was a magazine promo, so the licensing for that probably extends to this, right?
Oh yeah, and that came out really quick in Mashable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that came out instantly. So that's why I'm just like, oh, like, is this just happening because it has to happen? Like the Gandora sort of silly shit where it's like, this exists. Like we know this exists. It's not playable remotely, but we have to release it because why wouldn't we release it, right? Like, is that what's going to happen with Goddess? Like, it's going to be there. It's not going to turn into any of the Fiendsmith cards, and nothing will matter for the next 12 months or something. And then they just release this like really watered down Fiendsmith package to go with a really watered down Ubel deck to make a really probably decent best of one deck, or like where are we at, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking forward to. I that's the one thing I've really appreciated from Master Duel is just one, by the numbers ban list stuff, and just like understanding how they approach a lot of their fixing. Because we said this before, digital games are always nice because you can patch very quickly. So I just want to see how they approach this compared to TCG. Ignoring external factors like the Lacrima burn effect for TCG, right? Like that was that's probably a big selling point for why it got banned. So
I want to know how they're going to nerf the Pikachu deck. I'm just saying.
Which Pikachu deck? What?
No, in Pokemon Pocket.
Your
Pokemon
a joke. I'm just
Pocket
joking. Thing? Okay, yeah, sure. Haven't played that yet, but I'll get into it. We can have that as a talking point for the next one. But that's another funny one. I think people enjoy that too. Maybe that could be our next time sync. Instead of talking about anything else, we can talk about Pokemon Pocket.
Yeah,
next
week we're gonna talk about how they can nerf Pikachu in Pokemon Pocket in Pokemon Pocket, and how they can nerf Elemental Mage in Hearthstone. That's gonna be our next week's talking points.
We'll get special guest Jesse Cotton to talk about that.
And then I could talk about the new Union Arena set, Jujutsu Kaisen, which comes out this week.
Yeah, I'm down. And Bertolt 2 is too good in universe as long as we're complaining about stuff. Anyways, let's all right. I think we've hit our breaking point. So thank you all for listening. Hope this was a good one. I had fun with this one. I think we talked about more topics than we thought we were going to, but I don't know. I think I'm just still so traumatized by like one of the ones we did a couple months ago where we just did not want to be here at all. We were so bored the whole time. I think we're actually pretty happy about this one. So hopefully it shows that we're a bit more passionate about what we're talking about right now than we had been. But so next one probably won't have one before Anaheim. I don't see why we would, unless there's a surprise ban list jump scare or something insane, right? But maybe we will. But yeah, we're gonna definitely talk about Anaheim when we get back from that. Jeff and I are going. Bohdan is not, but that's he lives.
I'm excited for Maliss. So
yep.
Pretty fun.
And if you're still listening, just going back to the first thing I said, if you guys are interested in other types of content that you think would be fun, just drop a comment and I'll hopefully read it, and then maybe I'll be motivated to make other videos with slightly more effort than just recording.
If you actually want to hear us talk about, Pokemon Pocket and Hearthstone.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Maybe we could just do like a random episode where we talk about all the other things that we like, and then
I've literally
something we do in 2 weeks.
Playing so many different games. I would be down if we do like an almost non Yu-Gi-Oh episode. We can talk about universe. We can talk about Pokemon. Because I started playing Pokemon TCG also. I went to the Baltimore Regional.
And I might build a Pokemon TCG deck because Milo deck is my favorite Pokemon.
I play One Piece.
And it just came out. And Bohdan plays One Piece. So he was playing One Piece before so we're doing this.
I was playing One Piece while we were doing it as well, to be honest.
Yeah. That little boy is playing 3 games at once. What is it? Yes. All right. All right. So I guess we will be back before Anaheim to talk about probably other stuff. So thank you all for watching and listening, and we will see you next time.